Hey guys, welcome back to the Art of Craftsmanship. My name is Dustin, and today we're going to be making a survival neck knife. I decided to make a neck knife a couple years ago. Had seen some nice designs on the internet and kind of came up with my own design, kind of this leaf pattern with a drop point. When I was deciding what to do for the neck knife, I thought the most versatile use of a neck knife would be to have it kind of more of a survival neck knife. So do a paracord wrap on it. It comes with about 5 feet of paracord that'll wrap the handle, so once you can always take that off and use that paracord to lash the blade onto a spear shaft. You can use it to pull fibers from the paracord and fish with. Lots of different uses for paracord in the field. So when I started making knives, I was doing a lot of knives out of old circular saw blades. They're already hardened, you don't have to worry about heat treating. They're nice and easy to work with, something that everybody can do. So I decided it'd be easy to do that, and the nice thing about that is that the hardened steel is not so hard that it's not easy enough to sharpen in the field. So I usually keep a small piece of sandpaper with it. You can also sharpen it on a smooth stone that you find in a river. It works pretty well. It's hard enough that it'll hold an edge, but not so hard that you can't actually touch it up in the field. So it's nice and easy and accessible. It's something that you guys can do really easily as well. So if you have old circular saw blades or kind of old steel lying around that you're not sure if it's hard or not, you can make kind of smaller knives, things that you're thinking about you're going to use and you're going to resharpen pretty often in the field. So what we'll do is we'll actually trace this out on a piece of circular saw. So I have a piece here of some extra pieces that I cut off of this same type of blade. So we'll go ahead and trace that out and cut it out and start shaping it. All right, so we're gonna cut this out on the portaband saw. I've used all sorts of different techniques to cut these out before, but I'm borrowing this from my brother. I did make a little table for it out of another circular saw blade. This works really well. So clamp it in the vise, you can set it up and use a portable bandsaw for metal cutting. All right guys, there have been a few comments left in the comments on my knife making videos about my angle grinder jig, so I wanted to show a little bit more about it in this video. So with the jig, I just took my grinder, I took a flat piece of oak and I kind of laid my grinder on the oak and traced around it and just kind of had a general shape of my grinder. So then I took 2 pieces of wood to start out with, screwed them from the bottom here, and then this screwed into the side, and I also glued them. And then I took my 3rd piece of wood, and once I had the grinder in, I just put it really nice and tight against it, screwed it in from the bottom so it holds it real secure so it doesn't shake. And then I just put a couple screws directly down straight through the bottom of the jig into the tabletop, and it works really well. You know, I have an MDF tabletop, so I'm not too worried about screwing it in. If you had a nicer tabletop, you could clamp it on, but this works well. I just finished up the general shaping on the grinder. It's nice to use those grinding discs. They're a lot cheaper than the belts are for the sander. So just do all the general shaping with that. And now I'll move over to the sander and do the final shaping. All right, we are all now ground down to our template line, nice and even. And I kind of went around, took off the burrs on the edge as well. So now we'll clamp it up in our bevel jig and we'll put the bevels on. So I'm just using a Sharpie marker to mark the edge, blacken the edge, and then I'll use the marking gauge and the point owner will just scratch a line. There, I don't know if you can see it or pick up on that, but now you can see the line. So I'll just flip it over and I'll do it. There we go. So I'm going to start out with 10 degrees and see how that looks. I'm just going to clamp it up now into my angle iron and just going to make sure the 2 points are close to parallel with the top of the jig. Clamp that down and then we'll be ready to grind. All right, so I'm just keeping an eye on my bevel, making sure that it stays even all the way across. You can see that it dips a little bit here, so I'll just add a little bit more pressure on this end, and then just even pressure all the way. And I'll keep dipping in the water, keeping the heat treat, since the blade's already heat treated. I want to keep that treat in it, so I'll keep it cool in the water. 40s, we got 80s, 120. Switch to a 120, and I may actually switch to an old 120 at the end just to get the final polish. So I'm down now to an edge all the way across, and actually, whoa, tool down. And actually I've gotten all the way to the edge now on the very tip where it's actually starting to create a burr on the other side. So I'm going to stop there. I'm so close that I'll actually be able to finish all this up on a sharpening stone. For now, we're going to work on the flats, and then we'll drill the holes and do the handle wrap as well. So I just have a piece of 220 grit sandpaper here. I'm just going to lay the blade perfectly flat on it, just work back and forth just to flatten it out. And I use a tile. This is a stone tile that I got. And it's just a nice flat tile, hard flat surface. I have this, this paper is off of a roll, automotive sandpaper, so I'm going to go ahead and cut another piece. I picked this up from a consignment store. I think I got it for maybe $15 or so for the whole roll, and this will last me for a long time. I'm going to keep working on that first side. All right, we're good. We're nice and polished on both sides now. So we'll go ahead and mark it again, and we'll drill the holes. And then I have two different sizes. So the initial holes, I have two here, which starts the handle wrap. Those are 3/16, and then the hole at the back of the handle is 1/4. So I have those both here, so we'll go ahead and take it over to drill press and drill those out. I'm going to use a 1/2" bit now just to put a beveled chamfer on those smaller holes. Here you can see those chamfered edges now, so that way they don't cut into the handle material, the paracord that we use. All right, so you want to start by just feeding your 2 ends through. Pull it all the way through and make sure you're at the center. So again, just line your ends up, pull it tight. So now we know we're all the way at the center. So at this point, what you do is you twist it, and you want to go around to the other side. So once you get to the other side, you want to twist it once, and then you're twisting it twice, because what you want to do is you want that same wrap. So the piece that came from this side is going to go around the other piece and go back to the same side. And just make sure this overlapped part, the cross part, is in the center. Flip around the other side. I always try to twist the same way, so away from myself once, on around, all the way. Just slide it up, pull it tight, keep kind of working it up, pulling it tight. So again, we have the twist is right in the middle of the handle, still on the same thing on the other side. So we'll go ahead over to the other side. Twist it away from yourself, all the way. And then so now you can see both twists are coming over and back the same way. We'll just keep kind of pushing it up, pull it tight, work back to the other side. And I kind of came up with this wrap style. You can wrap it any way, but what this does is it gives it just gives you some more bulk in the handle. So it's a little bit more material, it gives you just a little bit heavier handle, a little bit bulkier handle, gives you more to hold on to. Just keep on holding your strings tight and pushing up as you go, keeping those crisscrosses right down the center of the handle. Just get back to the other side, twist away from yourself. Tricky sometimes, but you just pull it tight, keep pushing. Just make those fine adjustments so each of your crisscrosses line up straight down the handle center. So you can kind of just, if you're on a wooden surface, you can put the tip down on the table and just use your fingers to kind of slide the material up once you start getting close to the end. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then once we get down to the end, which I think I have maybe about one more wrap, I'm gonna try to see if I can get one more over here. So what I'll do now, so you have to have your 2 ends of paracord. Whoop, try that again. You want to make sure that both ends of your paracord are coming from different directions. So right now, when we finish that final wrap, we have both ends of the paracord on one side. So then usually what I'll do is I'll bring this one all the way around and then we can feed it. So now it's on the other side and feed it through. And then this last one, spin that. This one now can go up over top of that, and we'll feed that one through as well. And that's the reason why this bottom hole is a little bigger, because you have to be able to fit the two lines through. Get in there. There we go. Pull that nice and tight. So now we have both ends coming out different sides. Make sure everything's nice and tight, pull it tight. And then you're just gonna do a regular overhand knot with both strings together. Just once around and through. And just make sure you have with your hand that's holding on, just keep it tight. That's keeping it tight on the handle. I know all my strings are wrapped tightly, held on. Get this through, get through there. There we go, pull this through. And then just try to work this knot down, keeping your strings, both pieces of cord, nice and even. Just keep tightening it down as tight as you can get it down onto the end of the handle. And I like to make sure that my paracord is wrapped evenly all the way. Looks nice as well. Keep pulling back and forth. And now that knot is nice and tight down on the end of the handle. This gives you a little bit of a tail. Usually what I'll do is put about 1 or 2 more overhand knots in that tail. You could also, actually I'll show you, we can also move this knot down to the end, and if you needed it to work this way, you could move that all the way to the end, and then it would give you, you know, you could put that through your hand if you needed to. One way or another, you can hold on, give you some more grip. But the tail's there. I'd like having a little bit of an extra tail. I wanted to make sure I had plenty once I got the handle all the way down. So there's your handle wrap. Like I said, that gives you the most thickness here out of the different wraps that I've kind of come up with. That's why I use this one specifically. Nice, and gives you a good hardy handle to hold on to. Let's see what we get. Got my template in here as well. So this is my template for my sheath. That actually fits perfectly on there, so I'll use that for the full piece for the back, and then I just need a piece that's big enough for the front. So I have these 2 different pieces of leather, but I think that'll look cool. It's a small sheath, so you know, you kind of use the scraps that you have around. 2 pieces for the sheath, front and the back, and then I'll cut a welt as well to go in, and that'll protect the stitching from the blade when you put the knife in and out of the sheath. And we'll just take a straight edge and do a straight line. And make sure you're doing your marks on the inside. So that's usually on the rough side depending on what you're doing. And those will be tucked inside your sheath, so you don't have to worry about the marks being visible. Start with a light pass to give yourself that line. Follow your line and across gently, and go back into that line, and your blade will follow it. So second pass a little harder, and third pass, cut it off. There we go, and this will fit down in, and this blade will be able to fit, once we get it in, it'll fit all the way down in nice and deep. This will come up. We'll go ahead and cut the welt, so it's going to be the same shape. All right, so we'll make sure we know where the top of that is, and then we'll just go ahead and spin this around, move it over about, I guess about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/16, and mark that. Go. Just use some rubber cement. Go down both sides. I like to make sure I apply the glue to both sides, so both pieces of leather. So I'll put it in the bottom piece first, and then I'll do the welt. All right, so go ahead and get this on. Just make sure you're lined up. And I just use a couple binder clips. Put those right on the welt. Give it about 10 or 15 minutes to kind of cure just a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and mark the holes, punch them, and we'll sew it all together. Mark my first holes on both sides. That'll give me a starting point and an ending point. Then I'll have my groove cutter and just nice even stroke all the way down. Try to swing this around. And do it in one pass. Back up the other side. And end at the hole. I'm going to go ahead and mark these by hand. I like to do them about 3/16 or so, a little bit less than 1/4 away from each other. Go. right, so nice clean holes on the front, and nice and even on the back as well. So I'm going to go ahead and use the artificial sinew and do a saddle stitch. If you want to see a little bit more in depth on how to make a sheath, I did a knife sheath video as well. I'll put a link to that video in the description below, so you can go there and check it out. And then I'll use a lighter to burn those ends nice and down, secure to the edge. Go ahead and burn the second one. Again, just try not to get too close to your leather because you don't want to burn your leather. Go. Go about 3 feet or so for the lanyard. This way it'll give you plenty of room. Have the sheath hanging however high you want it, and then you can just make the adjustments in the back. So we'll just make sure both sides are even. Pull it tight. Go ahead and just put a knot, and again, this is where you can adjust it to the height that you prefer. I'm gonna use a little bit of neatsfoot oil now to finish the sheath with. And at the same time, I'll use the wetness of the oil to burnish the edges. All right, we're gonna go ahead and sharpen it up. I'm gonna use progressively smoother sandpaper. So I'm gonna start out with 360, move to 600, and then 1000. All right, guys, so we're all done. We finished up, all sharpened up. So I grabbed a maple branch from outside. We'll go ahead and give it a test run. So it's nice and sharp. It's cutting through really smoothly. It's a good size. It's not too big. Just Fits really nicely in the hand, not too heavy. Put in the sheath, should just slide in, and then because it's the wraps there, it fits nice and tight inside the sheath, so it won't fall out, and hangs nice around your neck, not too heavy. Works really well, feels really good. So I really appreciate you guys for watching. If you like the video, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, and if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. Also, we just signed up for Instagram, so go ahead and follow us at The Art of Craftsmanship if you're interested, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.